Are your challenges actually setbacks, or are they secret blueprints helping you to get to the next level? In this video, you'll discover the hidden truth behind life's toughest moments and how they actually are shaping your manifestation power. Hi, my name is Peter Abundant, aka Dr. Abundant, PhD, and ordained Minister of Metaphysical Sciences, which is the study of spirituality. I am also the author of The Enlightened Shadow and Spiritual, Not Religious, both available on Amazon and Audible. Challenges. Challenges are the things that we often just don't want to deal with, right? And we sometimes try to avoid them by any means possible. But the reality is there is a benefit to every challenge. And when we learn to embrace and recognize those benefits, then the challenges actually don't become challenges anymore. They become things that we look forward to because we recognize the power in facing them, the power in actually gaining insight and wisdom from them. So what I want you to understand is that life doesn't test you to break you, okay? It tests you to actually awaken you. And when you understand just simply that statement, recognizing that the tests aren't here to break you down, they're not here to punish you, okay? You don't necessarily have to face them because you're not worthy, you're not smart enough, but in fact, the tests are there to actually wake you up to maybe old patterns and ideas and belief systems that no longer serve you, or to simply just wake you up to the realization as to who you truly are, who you could be, your potentiality. And so when you start to see challenges in this light, then you start to actually shed light on the fact that the universe is here in support of you, you see? And so every challenge is ultimately an invitation for growth, for expansion, to align with a deeper sense of yourself, to align with your higher self. When we think about things like expansion, look at your relationship or the comparison between yourself and the universe. We know that the universe is always expanding, always growing. You are no different than the universe. In fact, every aspect and element in the universe is also within you. You are a microcosm of the universe. You are essentially a reflection of the universe. So when you really take that in and you recognize that within, then you can actually understand the components and the mechanisms and the process by which you can see yourself in the universe, in nature. So what I want you to understand is that this expansion is a representation of the growth, right? It is the challenges that is actually being the mechanism by which you grow. You see, growth doesn't happen from ease, okay? When you think about a seed growing out of the sand or the dirt, right? You want to really understand that it is growing because it is pushing through the resistance of that dirt, of that soil. It is pushing through that resistance in order to access the light, to access the energy. And so you have to think about challenges in that way. You know, I mentioned sand. You know, we think about sand, even in sand, where we find that there is possibly minimal nutrition for anything to grow, right? Cactuses grow, right? We think of succulents, you know, the small cactus that we can put in pots and things of that nature. They grow in minimal, nutrition and minimal water. But they still manage to understand the importance of expansion, growth, you see, and it doesn't limit them from the possibilities of reaching their potentiality. And so what I want you to do is I want you to reframe the idea that you may have, the understanding that you may have about what struggle is, you see, because they're not obstacles, right? They're spiritual assignments custom made for you. So when you understand that the things that show up that aren't ideal, that seem like it's in bad timing, bad situations, yes, they can be a product of past thinking. And it is your time to recognize that so that way you can change the way you think, change how you function and maneuver through the world, and thus create a different outcome or simply awaken to a new way of being because you have a particular challenge or experience that you have to address. You see, nonetheless, it is about expansion. It is about growth. No matter which way you look at it, is it a product of old thinking or it's just simply a, time to simply awaken to a new way of thinking? And so it is always looked at and should be looked at as an opportunity, not as something that you should feel bad about, not as something that you should be and feel shame, or guilt about, but something that you recognize as an opportunity, a time for growth, a time for expansion. So understand that the universe uses contrasts, right, to stretch your awareness, to basically deepen your power. So this contrast, what we're talking about is usually our life, most times, though we may fail to recognize it, is one of ease and comfort, even if our life isn't ideal. And so most times people are still comfortable, right? We're still comfortable even in that non-ideal state of existence. And it is up to you really to recognize that you're not fulfilled, you're not happy, and you have to break through that familiar but uncomfortable comfort, that thinking that this is okay, even though deep down it isn't okay. And what happens is your consciousness, your conscious mind will continue to push you to see that this way of existing, this way of living is not in alignment with who you truly are deep down. And so the universe, by way of consciousness and your conscious mind, is constantly trying to stretch your awareness, to deepen your power, right? To understand and come to a self-realization as to who you are, you see. And it does that by way of what I call the universal test. The universal test is an ongoing test throughout your life where you are constantly being reminded as to who you are. Okay. And this test, ultimately, how it works is it is a mirror. Okay. Life mirrors your inner world, right, to refine your manifestation ability. So manifestation isn't just about you trying to materialize physical, materialistic things. It isn't just about you trying to attract the love of your life, or you trying to create $1 million business, right? Or you trying to get that house or that car. It's really about you coming into the understanding as to who you are as a creator of your reality, because it is your nature to create, because you are a spark of the divine creator, right? Grand consciousness is what I call it. But ultimately, life is mirroring your inner world and your understanding of that realization. And so the universal test is really you constantly being reminded, you being, it being brought to your attention, what's going on, right, inside of you because of what you experience and what you see in the outside world. So understand that this test is not so much a test to see if you pass or fail, because that's not really the nature of a test. The nature of a test is to recognize where you are, where there is an awareness, where there is wisdom, where there is insight, where you align with the lesson that you're supposed to get in this realm, right? In this life on this planet. And so when you recognize the test is simply to consistently show you where you are and show you or give you the opportunities to see where you can align with the life and the purpose that you have here. You see? So you have to understand that you have to learn how your experiences that, they're not random. You have to learn that your experiences are basically reflections of what's going on within. They're aligned with your spiritual curriculum, so to speak. Okay. This curriculum is customized to you. So within you, you have a purpose. You have a desire that is so deep and embedded within you that it is ultimately what you're here to do. This is what we often call our life purpose. And so when you connect with consciousness, when you begin to listen to your intuition, then you start to go down the path of being led by consciousness toward the things that will slowly take you through a journey of waking up, through a journey of accessing different skill sets, different talents, different abilities, different desires, and thus will take you to the ultimate purpose as to why you're here. Okay. And so your life is reflecting to you the curriculum by which you need to take on, by which you need to receive, you need to take ownership of. We're constantly looking at other people's life, thinking that their life curriculum, their spiritual curriculum is supposed to tell us what our curriculum is. And it doesn't work that way. Every life is custom made for them. Every journey is custom made for you. And so once you recognize that, then it frees you up from wanting to compare yourself, because that is the furthest thing from finding your purpose, finding your truth, by simply attaching yourself and attaching the direction of your life by the means by which you see somebody else living. You have to let that go. So don't compare. Okay. Just really recognize, okay, maybe, yes, celebrate their achievements, recognize how you see yourself in what they're doing, but you must understand that how you achieve that fulfillment that you may see in them is going to be unique to you, you see, and your life will actually show you that. Understand that the universe, as we see it, often as something separate from us, is actually one with you. It's just like your conscious mind and your subconscious mind are constantly communicating with each other, even though it may seem chaotic when you don't recognize what's happening. But the universe and you are constantly communicating with each other the same way. You may analyze and see, okay, this is what I want. And then you may look at the universe as something that is showing you something completely different. Why is that? Because the universe is showing you where you need to adjust, how you need to recalibrate yourself, how you need to make adjustments in order for you to align with that desire, with that way of living, with that lifestyle, right? With that person you know yourself to be deep down, and you feel like this is quote unquote the best version of yourself that you want to express and live out. You have to understand that the universal test is the universe reflecting back to you what you're putting out. So that way your conscious mind can analyze it, recognize that your subconscious is holding programs, thoughts, beliefs that don't match what it is that you truly desire. And therefore you have to make adjustments. Therefore you have to do things like, identify those patterns, that what they actually are, those patterns are the lessons continuing to repeat themselves, so that way you can see them, right? They're waiting for your conscious breakthrough. They're waiting for you to actually recognize them, see them, and then get over them, right? Heal them, evolve, ascend above them. So you really want to understand the importance of the alchemy of your desire, right? And how to transform the reality that you're living in into the desire that you seek. It is about differentiating between the ego driven wants versus the consciousness aligned desires. You see, ego driven wants are very superficial. They're very surface level, but your conscious aligned desires, though, are the core essence of what it is that is connected with your purpose. You see, so a lot of times people want superficial things thinking that that is what they desire, but it isn't. You have to go deeper into the want in order to access the desire. I mentioned a lot. You may want $1 million, but really what you desire is what the $1 million will give you, right? Will make available to you, right? Most of us think $1 million means financial freedom. So that's really what you want. We want that life, right? What does that look like? Okay. Does that look like not having a 9-to-5 job anymore? Does that look like you following your passion to explore music and arts or travel the world? That's what you desire. And that is the true essence of what you need to be going after. You see? So you have to discover that, things like your emotional wounds that you've experienced as a child, those things are going to distort, right? What you think you want. Those things are going to distract you from your desires. So you have to go inside, right? You have to go within the subconscious, within the unconscious, and thus begin to do the alchemy, right? Work the alchemy, change the chemical structure of your inner being and your spiritual essence, your spiritual, alignment, understanding. And you need to just kind of change and manipulate things. It's really about taking all the things available to you, working and just tweaking the ratios of emotions, thoughts, feelings, belief systems, and just making adjustments here and there. So that way, again, you can recalibrate yourself to match a certain frequency. That frequency expresses and materializes your desire. You see, so you have to clear the limiting beliefs to uncover your true desires. Your limiting beliefs are a product of the emotional wounds, right? The limiting, belief systems that were given to you and you received in your subconscious. The ego-driven wants, those things are basically how they express themselves out. The good thing is when you identify the wants of the ego, you can go deep within that in order to access the conscious desires, right? Consciousness is desires. Okay. So you have to understand that once you clear those limiting beliefs, you uncover your true desires, right? Those are the things that are meant for you. Those are the things that are there for you to experience. This is all about a innate desire to have a particular experience. That is what you chose before you came here. You chose a particular life. You chose to live and experience this human existence by way of you and to achieve a particular thing. So you have to learn the spiritual science of turning things like, your raw desire into powerful intention. Your desire needs to be focused. It needs to be geared toward things that you do in your daily life, being intentional about this is going toward that particular desire. So even if you think the 9-to-5 job that you have has nothing to do with your desire, make it so. Decide and figure out how everything you're doing, even though at face value, it seems like they have nothing to do with each other. They do. And you have to recognize how they do. And by recognizing how they do, you actually fuel, right, your intention, you fuel your motivation, your connection with that desire, which makes it more likely and quickly happen and materialize. So even if it is your 9-to-5 job that right now you really can't stand, It is because you haven't connected it to the desire. You know, even if it is just saying, my 9 to 5 job allows me to create a certain income. Well, that income can be directed toward the thing that you desire. Okay. Or you can look at, well, my 9 to 5 job allows me to communicate and talk with different types of people. That is a skill set that will always be valuable toward any kind of desire that you want. Because guess what? Chances are, in order to materialize and create that desire, you probably need other people to support and help you. Right. So find a way to find the connection to bridge everything that you're doing toward the thing that you desire. And that will help in ultimately cultivate an environment for you to feel connected with that desire. And that connection is going to fuel the desire, is going to make it something that is palpable and at your reach. You see? So the important thing with your desire and materializing the thing that you desire is the art of surrender. And a lot of people really don't like the word surrender because they think that that means something else is in control. And that's not the case. When we talk about surrender from a spiritual point of view, what we're talking about is the understanding that true manifestation requires both intention and surrender. Now, when we say surrender, we mean having faith in oneself, having a level of trust where you no longer question everything. You're no longer concerned with everything, right? You're only concerned with the things that you can think, see, and feel in the moment, right? You're only concerned with the moment. And so when you think about the idea of trying to gather all the insight, all the possibilities, all the details, all the nuances, it is overwhelming. Why? Because your mind is not built to do that. That is the mind, the universal mind that is built to do that. Sometimes when people talk about co-creation, what they are talking about is allowing that aspect of you, the universe, to actually do what it does. Now, what I say is the universe is one with you. So there is really no co-creation. You are recognizing your oneness with the universe. So the co-creation aspect, there's no co. There is simply creation, understanding that you are one with the universe. Therefore, you are just simply allowing, right, that universal mind to do what it does, just like your subconscious mind is in charge of your heartbeat, your breathing, right? Cellular regeneration, your digestion. The same thing applies to your universal mind. It is in charge of the orchestra of the things that we see around us. People, places, time, that is in charge of that aspect. And you are just simply, when you surrender to your desire, you are simply allowing that aspect and all those elements to be regulated, maintained, and managed by your universal mind. You see, your higher self, so you learn to trust the unseen. And the more you let go, the more you allow. When you allow so much, recognizing the things that you can do right now, the things that you can think through, strategize about, that is your job. But the other aspects of how it builds momentum, how it grows, all those things, that's up to that universal mind. Okay. So it's about letting go of control, especially every single detail. It's about letting go of control. It's about letting go of timelines, not being concerned about, when it's supposed to happen, or I want it to happen now, but simply trusting in your process of just simply being, doing, and just holding the space of having it in your own mind and body. It's about letting go of fear, because there is no fear, because you recognize that the universe doesn't fail. So there is nothing to fear, you see? And you just simply watch and you let your power just expand. You let your understanding, continue to grow. You understand that faith in the process is a part of manifestation, right? So when you are in the process of materializing the thing that you want, you recognize that faith is a very, very big part of that. And when people don't have faith, they don't understand the process. When they don't have faith, they often stop the process, right? They often slow down the process and they create a lot of suffering for themselves. And that's not something you want to do. So you have to practice the art of surrender. You have to recognize that when you're being tested by the universe, and ultimately life is the test. So you want to recognize that you come into this game with this understanding of the universal test, recognizing that the universe is a mirror and it is reflecting your inner world. So whatever your world, your outer world is, if it isn't in alignment with, creating joy and fulfillment from you, then that means that you have to pay attention, analyze the test, look at the data, and recalibrate so that way you materialize and you reflect something that matches your consciousness. So you have to align your mind, your energy, your emotions with your desired reality, So yes, practices like gratitude, visualization, affirmations, right? Journaling, very important. Now, here's the thing. When we talk about these different practices, what I want you to understand is the significance and the power of these practices are in doing them all, not just picking one, but doing them all. Why? Because doing them all means you are embodying the essence of that desire materialized. You are taking ownership of that reality for yourself. You are claiming it by doing all these things that align with that desire. That is why it's so important to practice gratitude, because if you have the thing, you should be thankful for the thing. Visualization, you should be seeing yourself have the thing, feeling having the thing. Conscious affirmations, you should be stating that you have the thing, because everything that you currently do have, right, it is confirmed in your mind. That is mine. That is mine. I have that. I am that. You see, journaling, if you're somebody who is a writer, then you should be writing it. And if you're not writing it, you should be maybe making videos about it, just simply having a conversation with other people about it. And so the point is, you're taking ownership. So all of these things coincide and connect with one another to create the reality and the environment of that desire. So when you are experiencing and recognizing this universal test, you are then paying attention to the data, right? Seeing what life is giving back to you as a result of what you're putting out. And then you are recognizing the information, and then you are going to recalibrate yourself by way of these tools, right? And more meditation, gratitude, visualization, affirmation, hypnosis, journaling, so many different things, right? Yoga, fitness, diet, all of these different things will then create a space for you to cultivate the environment for that desire, and for you, whom owns the desire, to actually manifest, unfold, happen. So use life's, tests as checkpoints, as lessons that are constantly just showing you, okay, this is where you're at. This is where you're at. This is what's happening. So it's like data points that you're constantly looking at, you're observing. It is just giving you all of the insight you need in order to materialize that goal. It is the universe pointing you in the direction. It's saying, okay, this is where you're going, right? Or this is where you're at. This is where you want to go. So all you have to do is just point the boat in the other direction, turn the steering wheel of your car in that direction. Simply turn your head and walk that way. And that's all you essentially are doing in life. Many of us are taking the test and we feel like we're failing the test. And therefore, because we feel like we're failing the test, we fail to acknowledge the test going further. We fail to take ownership of what the test really is, because we were taught that once you take a test, the test is over. But this test is ongoing. Life is the test. So until you pass away, you are constantly in the test. You see? So recognize that the test is just simply showing you, it's like an open book test, right? Where all you have to do is look at the question, analyze the data available to you, all right? And then fill out the answer. And then you look at the next test and you just keep going. You just keep going. You just keep adjusting. Maybe you have to test, you read the question, you may answer it. Maybe the question will tell you, you know what, yes or no, if that's the right answer or not for you. Then you can even go look in the book, change your answer. You see? So there is always an opportunity for you to get what it is that you desire, because that's how the universe is set up. You see? So realize that manifestation, it isn't a trick. It's a transformation. It's about you coming into your own self. Okay? It is not about you becoming somebody else. It is about you becoming your true self. And so that is what I want you to understand. When you go and you're dealing with these challenges that come up, recognize that these challenges are not to break you. They're to awaken you. Okay? Now, if you are ready to turn your life's tests into powerful manifestations, what I just want you to do is like this video and please share with somebody who you think will really benefit from it. I thank you so much. Feel free to go to drabundant.com, subscribe to my daily newsletter, and get access to this free ebook and so much more. Continue to join me on this journey. Peace and abundance always.